Okay, we're going to try one more time. Can you hear us in the room for those on Zoom? Yay.
Winning.
Would someone on Zoom, maybe Kevin, can you unmute yourself and just speak so we know that we can hear you?
I can hear you.
I think unfortunately the sound is coming out of this computer.
No problem. We are resilient and resourceful.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can at least try to make it as loud as absolutely possible.
Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. We are working through a couple of technical difficulties, but appreciate you joining us tonight. Happy July 1st. I know summer started a couple of weeks ago, but it feels official now, I think. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday coming up. We are going to, I think we're almost at quorum. I wanted to kick off just by giving a quick introduction about what we're doing here tonight and then inviting all of our committee members to introduce themselves. And then we will dig in just so you have an idea of what's on our agenda. We will first hear from the Central Park Conservancy. Really excited to get an update on the Harlem-Mere shoreline and boardwalk projects. Then we'll hear about activation in Bryant Park by the camera company Instax. And then we will also talk about a proposal for the beautification of a very cool Oliver Stone area in Union Square Park. So before we dig in on all of that, how we kind of operate this committee is that first we'll hear from the applicant or agency, and then we have committee members that are assigned to do due diligence on that item. We'll then allow committee members to kind of ask questions to that application or issue. Then we'll open it up to the public for the same kind of questions and comments. Then we'll move back to the committee, so a little bit of back and forth, and we will make final comments and move to a business session where we discuss the issue and vote on an appropriate resolution or letter. So really excited to have so many friends here tonight. Really like looking forward to all the things ahead, and just a quick round of introductions, which I should have started with already. I'm Kim McCall, Chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. Thrilled. I just care so deeply about what's happening in our public spaces here in Manhattan, and I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you. I will introduce Libby, our new vice chair. So yay, happy to have Libby in this role, supporting and leading. Very excited to be here and super excited to have welcome our new members. I know already. There's more of you. Sorry. Yeah. But really excited to have a great team. Yeah.
John here.
Long time there. Yeah.
Arnal Vikram, new member of CV5, and in addition to this committee, I'm also on the land use committee.
Amazing. With lots of community board experience previously as well, so excited to have that.
Michael K. Bass. Hi.
Great. And then we also have some committee members that are online with us. So if you just unmute yourself, Todd, I see you there.
Hi, guys. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Charles, I see you there too. If you can unmute and say hi.
Hi, it's Charles here. Hi, everyone.
Great, thanks, Charles. I see Michael Southworth.
Hi there. I'll be there very shortly. I went to the board office and not to.
It's gonna happen. No problem. Right.
Yeah, so I'll see you all soon. Sorry about that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michael. And then Catherine Ellington.
Catherine is here, CB5.
Great. Okay, I think, and then we've also got some other community board 5 members. I see Bradley, you're here as well. Thanks for joining. If you wanted to introduce yourself and your new capacity.
Hi all, Brad Sherburne. I'm the new chair of Manhattan Community Board 5, and I will just be listening in. So thank you very much, Kim.
Fantastic. And then Mark, also heading up a committee, and I know here for our first issue as well. So thanks for joining, but if you want to say hi.
Yeah, thank you. And hello, everyone. Thanks for allowing us to join the meeting.
Fantastic. Do you have other committee members on right now?
Kevin's here, although Kevin, are you on Parks? Or you're on Bex with me, actually, right?
No, I'm not on Parks. I'm Landmarks.
And Bex.
I'm siding on. Yeah, and Bex.
Yep.
Thank you for having the Landmarks committee kind of join, hang on to your bumper here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Awesome. So excited to have so many of our Landmarks colleagues here tonight as well for the presentation from our friends at the Central Park Conservancy. So I think we can move right into that presentation. It's an update, a non-voting item, but we know that they have a robust presentation to share with us. And just a little bit of context as we continue our efforts to kind of enhance and preserve our beloved public spaces. Really thrilled to have this team here who is just so top-notch. The two significant projects we're reviewing are the Harlem-Mere Shoreline Boardwalk Restoration and the North End Recirculation Projects. These initiatives aim to improve the sustainability, the resilience, and the overall ecological health of Central Park's North End by naturalizing the shoreline, expanding water surfaces. They'll get into all the details of that, but I also wanted to mention that there are also critical accessibility improvements that are happening, ensuring that everyone can enjoy the park's amenities and natural beauty. So we're excited to learn now more about these transformative projects, and thank you for being here. And you should be able to screen share. So I'll turn it over to Central Park Conservancy now.
Great, thanks so much. I'm going to kick it off. Diane is going to share her screen, which she is doing now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandy Huber, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Capital Projects at the Central Park Conservancy. I'm joined tonight by a few of my colleagues, Diane Jackier, Nick Koster, Bob Rumsey, and Steve Bope. We're going to be presenting, as you said, tonight, two projects. And Diane, you can go to the next slide, that are both in the north end of the park. We'll start with the Harlem-Mere Shoreline Restoration and then a project for the recirculation of the North End water bodies. And while we are presenting them as two projects, they are really a continuation of our most recent work in the North End at the Harlem-Mere Center, which is highlighted as number 1 on your slide there, with the shoreline highlighted as number 2. And then the recirculation is number 3. And as you can see how they are really all connected. Next slide, please. Before I turn it over to Nick, who's going to be speaking about the shoreline, I just wanted to provide a quick update on our project for the reimagination of the former site of the Lasker Pool and Rink. This is a shot just as we started construction in September of 2021. Next slide. And then this is a shot from just a few weeks ago. So if you've been in this area of the park, you will have seen the ongoing construction activity. The pool is being constructed. The building has been constructed into the slope, which will seamlessly blend into the landscape through the addition of a green roof. And then the next couple of slides just take you through a few detailed shots of construction activity. That next slide, further shots of the pool being poured. And then we will be continuing our work here until early next year, when we look forward to welcoming everyone to the new facility. And then just to kick us off with our two projects, as we always start with all of our projects, the project goals. And these are the same as what we had established for the Harlem-Mere Center, which is continued restoration of the historic character, reduce water use and flooding while increasing water quality, supporting wildlife habitat, and improving ADA access. So the next slide, I will turn it over to Nick.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. Hey, everyone, I'm Nick Koster. I'm the Vice President for Design at the Conservancy. I'm going to speak with you about the Harlem-Mere Shoreline. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this location of the park where the Mere is located from 106 to 110th Street, this was originally added to the footprint of the park's original plan through the advocacy of the park's designers, Olmsted and Box. And that was really to better incorporate the existing natural features in the area. So this is an early park photograph. You can go to the next one, highlighting the Mere's design natural edge along the northern shoreline. This is a view from the 1920s, illustrating the rock outcroppings along the southern shore that created the Mere's original edge condition in this location. There was originally no path that existed. During the first half of the 20th century, the character of the mere changed considerably. You could go to the next slide. Through a series of projects, including the addition of a shoreline perimeter path, a concrete retaining wall, perimeter fence, a boathouse structure on the north side of the water body. Next. So in the mid-1960s, we all know the Lasker Pool and Rink facility was constructed, which further reduced the shoreline and footprint of the mere. Next. Here we have an image from the 1980s of the Harlem Mere, and this really demonstrated the decline that had happened to this area of the park. And this was really one of the first areas that the Conservancy focused on restoring. Next. This work included naturalizing a good section of the edge of the mere, the building of the Dana Center. Next. And other improvements, including playground restorations. Next. So now a quick look at the existing conditions. So the existing hardscape conditions around the mere, those really reflect the work that was done in the 1990s by the Conservancy, which was really constructing the path surrounding it. Since then, small areas have been reconstructed in conjunction with the work that we've done at playgrounds to create accessibility. The shoreline, in the next slide, please. The shoreline conditions also reflect the 1990s work, with some portions having been naturalized, with others still defined by the concrete retaining walls. However, though, in recent years, invasive plants, primarily Phragmites, have found a foothold around much of the shoreline and need to be removed and replaced with aquatic plants. Next. The final existing conditions image that we wanted to share with you is an aerial photo of the mere and Lasker prior to the work of reconnecting the water bodies in the construction of the new Harlem Mere Center. Next, please. So the work that will be completed as part of the Harlem Mere Center is highlighted in white, and the mere restoration work that we are here to share with you today encompasses the entire remainder of the shoreline. We're planning for the work to be completed in phases, really to maintain as much access of the mere for the public as possible. The work will entail reconstructing paths, the removal of the invasives, lighting updates, bench upgrades, the introduction of companion seating. And when complete, the entire path of the shoreline will be accessible all the way around the shore, as well as to all the adjacent programs. And so we've broken the restoration down into 5 sections that we'll quickly walk through, starting with the northwest accessibility and path restoration and go around the mere clockwise. And at the end, we can feel free to come back to any of these that you would like further explanation on. Next. So along the northwest shoreline, we'll be realigning and reconstructing that to create an accessible route to the new Harlem Mere Center facility from 110th Street, as well as from the drive. Next. This is a drawing that's showing a section of the accessible path that will be creating the accessible route to the Harlem Mere Center. And so this is very similar to the work that was done as part of the Dana project the Dairy Center restoration. Next. So at the north shoreline, this park path will be realigned and regraded to make it fully accessible, as well as creating an accessible access point in 2 locations at the adjacent to the mere. Here we're going to be also expanding the mere shoreline slightly by removing a strip of upland area that has current invasive plants and restoring that with new aquatics and shoreline planting. Next. So at the east shoreline, this is adjacent to the work that the Conservancy has done not so long ago, leading up to Duke Ellington Circle and the work at the East 108th Street Playground to create accessibility. So south of that work, we'll be repaving the paths and making them accessible, in addition to the removal of the invasives. We'll also be repairing and stabilizing the beach. Next. So at the Southeast Cove, here we're going to be reestablishing the full depth of the mere, in addition to the planting and the paving work. There'll be a slight realignment to the path in this location to create the accessible path leading out to the boardwalk. Next. So we just have some illustrative sections of the work. So this is a typical shoreline section illustrating the invasive plants that have overtaken the aquatic planting. Next. So the restoration will remove those and reestablish the attended aquatic planting in these areas. Next. So this is a condition that is along the northern shore near the Dana Center, where the path and there is access to the water. And so in the current condition, the path is too steeply pitched and there's no stop at the water's edge. So next. So here we'll be realigning and regrading to create an accessible overlook at the shoreline. Next. Sorry, was there a question?
Could you go a little slower, please?
Oh, sure. So adjacent to this area, the path also will require realignment to create accessibility. So here we're going to be softening the edge and adding an aquatic planting shelf. Next. Okay, so the final area around the shore, this area is really a continuation of the current boardwalk and shoreline path work that is being done at the Harlem Mere Center. So similarly in this location, portions of the path will be replaced with boardwalk grates that'll be floating over the water, and the shoreline paths will be updated. So here sections of the concrete perimeter wall will be removed to expand the mere and create those planting zones for the aquatic plants. And we have two sections to illustrate what I mean by that. So if we go to the next slide. So here, this section illustrates the existing mere shoreline edge condition of the path, showing the relationship of the water to the path to the rock outcropping. Next. So the proposed reconfiguration, what's happening is we'll be cutting down and lowering the retaining wall, removing the fill that was done during the Moses era of creating paths on this side of the mere, and establishing an aquatic planting shelf between the boardwalks and the exposed rock outcropping. Next. We have a few visualizations to illustrate what that looks like. This is a rendered perspective looking south, illustrating the design intent of the boardwalk and its relationship to the mere. The next slide is a rendered perspective of the experience, what it's going to feel like while you're walking east on the boardwalk. And finally, we have a photograph here that is currently under construction. So it's just missing the guardrails, and those are going to be installed later this year. And this section of the boardwalk will open when the Harlem Mere Center opens next year. Next. So now I'm going to turn it over to Diane to speak about the mere recirculation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Jack here. I'm the Vice President for Program Management, and I'm going to talk to you about the second project that we have for you tonight, which is the North End Recirculation System. So this is a really incredible project that's going to have a very positive impact on the park. But unlike the great renderings that Nick just showed you and some of the beautiful Harlem Mere Center construction photos that Sandy showed you, this project will mostly be underground. So you probably won't notice most of what we're going to be doing here, but it's going to have incredible benefits, which I'll go over in just a few minutes. So just for a little bit of history for everybody, the three water bodies that are north of the reservoir in Central Park, the 100th Street Pool, the Lock, and the Mere, were built as an interconnected water system from 1862 to 1865. And the current situation that we have is that potable city drinking water comes in through an inflow on the 97th Street transverse, and then there's an additional inflow at Central Park West, close to 101st Street. And so that potable water comes in, fills the pool, which the water then flows by gravity through the lock, through the Mere, and out into a combined sewer on 5th Avenue and 106th Street. So what we're proposing now is the graphic on the right, which is a recirculation system. So we would actually shut off those inflows, the one on 97th Street at the transverse and the one on Central Park West, and we would capture stormwater, and that water would then circulate from the pool to the lock to the Mere and be pumped back up through this red line to a manhole cover just south of the 100th Street pool, and it would flow again through the system. It would create a closed loop system. I did just want to mention that this red line here is just an illustration. We're very careful in what we're going to be doing. There will be just a trenched, line that we're going to follow through here, through the ball fields. We're not taking out any trees here. We're not going to be disturbing anything. We're just going to be installing that pump system going this way. So just to give everyone a little bit more information about this, a recirculation system has actually been floated for a very long time. We have documentation from some of the early annual reports from the Central Park Board of Commissioners, where the idea of a recirculation system was mentioned in the form of an engine to elevate, economize, and redistribute the water. So although the system was never built, what's really amazing is that Olmsted and Vaux were so ahead of their time in so many ways that they were proposing a system like this. So this system has basically been in its current state since the 1860s. And even though the recirculation system was never built, the idea did come around again in the early 2000s when the Department of Environmental Protection did a water quality management planning report. And that included recommendations for a park-wide recirculation scheme that did not go forward at the time just because of the exorbitant costs for it and some physical barriers in the park, and particularly the transverse roads, how to figure out how to get the water across those transverse roads. So the idea then started again in 2016 when DEP approached the Conservancy about reducing city potable water at the 100th Street pool. So at that time, as some of you may remember, DEP was looking, to reduce the potable water. They changed the toilets and the NYCHA housing. They were doing a lot of different things, and they were looking to do something at the 100th Street pool. And the Central Park Conservancy looked again to see what was feasible and determined that doing something at the north end of the park was actually something we could do. And so that sort of gotten to us where we are today. So again, as I mentioned, what we will be doing is capturing the stormwater from about 204 acres in the northern part of the park. It's about 30% of the park's total acreage. And just to highlight some of the benefits to this system, which are really pretty incredible, we'll save about 480,000 gallons of potable water a day, which adds up to about 175 million gallons of potable water saved a year. Those numbers are pretty amazing. And in addition, we are going to be reducing the wet weather flow into the combined sewers by about 90%. So what that means is when it's a really heavy rain event, the water from Central Park is not going to go into the sewers, which hopefully will help alleviate the flooding, particularly in East Harlem. And we'll see if in Harlem as well, it would alleviate the flooding. And then last but certainly not least is we are, the models that we have been looking at show that we will also have improved water quality in these water bodies by the reduction of the harmful algal blooms. The city potable water actually has a lot of phosphorus in it, which is something that's really helpful in terms of preventing corrosion in the water pipes. However, that phosphorus is one of the contributors to the harmful algal blooms. So we're hoping with that significant reduction in the city potable water, that will also help with the water quality, in addition to the filtration systems that we're going to be having in the Mere and the pool as well. So as I mentioned, most of this project is going to be underground infrastructure, things that nobody will see but what we will see in a very minimal way are some of the surface features that, you know, typically are typical park features that you see all the time. Those are manhole covers, hatch doors, electrical cabinets. So we're going to have a few of those at this location, just sort of at the Harlem Meer, just south of the Harlem Meer. We will have a few of these locations that will have the features. We're also going to have a few close to the 100th Street pool on the west side of the park with another filter vault and a few electrical cabinets and hatch doors and such. And so these are just some renderings showing you what these will typically look like. They really will be minimally visible in the park landscape. We will enclose them as much as possible and, you know, have shrubs and things in front of them so people will not even notice them. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Is that the end of the presentation?
It is,
Oh,
yes.
fantastic, fantastic. I have a quick question. Can you talk to us about some of the timelines around this work?
Sure. With respect to the recirculation system, the project is currently going through design. We're going through all of our approvals. The hope is to have this start in construction at the beginning of 2025, and construction is expected to last about a year.
And I'll take for the shoreline, the first phase, that kind of northwest corner. We will be starting that. That'll be running concurrent with the Harlem Meer Center project so that we can kind of paint our way out of that project site. We will then be moving on to the second phase of the boardwalk, and we will just keep continuing around the shoreline. You know, as I think we mentioned at the beginning, we're not planning to do all of this all at once so that we can continue to maintain access to this area.
Great. So is this multiple years or?
It'll be multi-years, yes. Yeah.
Great, great. Amazing. Well, it sounds like a really incredible investment. Are you fully funded for this project already?
For the recirculation system, we have more than half of the money, and we're waiting to hear on a grant application that we submitted to NOAA. So we should be hearing any day about that.
Great.
Fingers crossed.
And for the shoreline, the first two phases that I mentioned, we have funding for those. And we will continue our fundraising so that we can just keep going around the shoreline, which we anticipate doing.
Yeah, we know what a big lift that is for you, and we appreciate it. Before I kind of turn it over to committee questions, Mark, do you have anything as Landmarks Chair?
I do not. Kevin, do you have any questions?
Nothing specific. I'm open to having a discussion about it.
Okay. Fantastic. I know Charles has his hand raised, and anyone in the room though, before we go to our participants online, any questions? Y'all always do such a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Charles, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just before I ask my question, Madam Chair, if we could please remind applicants, if it's possible, when they could, when possible, please describe the slides, as I can't see them. So my question to Nick is, when it comes to ADA, the paths and the center, could you please describe what particular accessibility features are there for people who are blind and visually impaired? And did you speak to any specific disability groups, people who have mobility impairments, such as people in wheelchairs and the blind and visually impaired, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I look forward to hearing the answer. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So with the accessible path that we are creating around the Meer, that is all edged with a granite cobble that has a slight relief to it. So there will every path will have a border that would be detectable. And in terms of meeting accessibility, we're following all of the current standards and guidelines that are set out by the regulating bodies.
I also just wanted to mention we've been discussing this with the New York City Parks Department's accessibility coordinator, who is a wheelchair user, and we work very closely with him to ensure that he knows what we're doing and he's comfortable with what we're doing. And he's made a few suggestions to this as well.
Great, thanks for those questions, Charles. Anyone else from the committee? Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so concerning the stormwater, first of all, let me say that I know you guys gotta go to 11 different community boards, and I think you're terrific for doing it. And it's a terrific, great presentation, and hats off to what a great job that this Conservancy is doing at Central Park. It's my playground as well as the rest of New York's playground. So thank you. I just wanted to ask you about the storm water that will now be utilized for the first time since what, 1850 or 1858? That the storm water is going to be reutilized in the diagram that you showed. How is that being collected? I think I missed that.
I don't think you missed it. I didn't mention it. We have Steve Bope, who is our studio director for planning, who will be able to walk you through that a little bit more.
Yeah, so the stormwater, a lot of the stormwater, is already coming into the system along with the potable water. So this is more about taking the potable water out of the equation and maximizing the benefit of the stormwater that's coming in. So it's a whole series of drains in this part of the park as well as overland flow. We are also, though, reconnecting two watersheds up the northwest corner of the park and around the Conservatory Garden that currently go direct to combined sewer. So in rebuilding some piping and storm infrastructure, we're able to reconnect those two, which is, I think, about 40 acres of the park that will go back into the watershed that otherwise would have just been going directly out to the sewers.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm picturing a big lawn. It's not like the Great Lawn because we're further north than that, but in your area where you're working, the top third of the park, in the green spaces, there's going to be a collection of drainage towards a certain collecting area that's going to coagulate all the water together, combine, get it together, whatever the word, and then recirculate it back to where it's going to be pumped on your diagram. Am I getting it?
Yeah, and most of the infrastructure that collects the stormwater is already in place. So we're not really rebuilding, except in those two watersheds, but most of the piping and drainage structures that collect that is already in the park. The difference is, yeah, that we're recirculating it, so it's not going through the system just once. And we're also, the pumps will shut off during wet weather, so that the water bodies will be using only storm water. And we won't need to recirculate anything until they kind of fill up and overflow, and then they will be pumped back around.
I think just sort of, simply, if you think of two as the mere is really the low point of this area from the transverse road north. What Steve's basically describing is that the majority of the drainage infrastructure within this area actually leads to those water bodies before it exits the park. So it's just tying in or building upon a lot of existing infrastructure that's already there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great detail, thank you. Todd, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, so I just want to say that what I'm seeing here in the pictures and in your descriptions aligns very closely with the proposal that you gave a few years back. And I commend you on that. To me, looking at this taken as a whole is you're restoring the views, much of the original shoreline, and removing the eyesore of Alaska Rink, just as you promised. And I look forward to the conclusion of your work.
Yeah. Thanks for those comments,
Thank
Todd. Charles, I see your hand is up. I don't know if it's again or if it's still up.
Yes, Madam Chair. Sorry, I have a follow-up question. I do apologize.
No problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, with all due respect to the accessibility coordinator who works at the park department, you know, not always someone in a wheelchair is going to know the needs for everyone with various disabilities. I'm just wondering why other organizations weren't consulted, such as Visions for the Blind or you know, other mobility related organizations, or even the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, to try to get a consultation of how people feel about the design of the park or the center. I just feel like there could have been more input from the disability community. And my second question is, moving forward, do you think in future, when there's plans like these with Central Park, maybe the disability community can be consulted instead of just one individual from the Parks Department? Thank you.
Sure,
I
yeah.
could say, yeah, I can speak to the Harlem Center, and we did speak to the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities for that project. But there's always, of course, more that we can do. So we certainly take your comment seriously, and you know, for our projects, we'll continue to work on that.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, go for it, John.
I believe in the presentation, you said that you expect to receive or hope to receive funding from our nonprofit for the second project. I guess so. My question is a broader question. How do you determine what projects that you go out to seek funding for, versus using your endowment versus using funds from the city of New York? If you could just give me, I think you all gave a presentation about 5 years ago, or at least I was in one where I got that. I'm just curious for more update, just how do you, the decision-making process of how you decide which projects to fund, which ones.
Sure. We have a capital plan. It's a multi-year plan. It's about a 7-year capital plan. And projects are, you know, determined based on need in the park, and then also aligning that need with funding opportunities. So all of our projects, they're funded with either private philanthropic dollars that we go out and we raise specifically for a project, or we do have some city funding. So we will use city funding for some of our projects, and some of them we combine city and philanthropic dollars together. So for instance, we, as you know, we've been restoring all of the 21 playgrounds in the park. We have 3 left. We have Spectre Playground, Diana Ross, and Rudin. Those are a priority for us to complete that reconstruction of all of our playgrounds in the park. Finishing the restoration of the North Woods is also a priority. So these are just some examples of things that we have on our multi-year capital plan.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I get it. You have to be both opportunistic and strategic. So
Exactly.
much luck, much luck. Okay, I think there are seeing no more hands from the committee or in the room. I just want to give our friends from the public online one quick second. I think raise your hand. Let's do online. Oh, well, no one's on their phone, but any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing this with us. We're really excited about this work and grateful. for your contribution to Central Park. So thank you for being here. Happy summer. I'm sure we'll all be spending time in Central Park this summer. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for joining us, Landmarks. It was good to see you guys. Welcome to hang out if you'd like. Okay, so moving on to our agenda, I know we have a couple of items to still get through, but I'm just always so impressed by the work that they're doing at the Conservancy. So it was great to get that update. But moving on, we have John and Todd, who were going to tell us a little bit about an activation happening in Bryant Park this August. So I don't know if one of you wants to maybe give us a quick overview, and then Jason and Chance, are you here to present on that?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic, amazing.
Yeah, this is, an event in Bryant Park. The applicant is, the ultimate applicant is Fuji Film. And, an application for an instant tag, activation, that's a brand for camera. An idea is to hold an event, quite large, actually, projected numbers, 4,000 people, course, per day park, where in the northern, in part of the park, they will, attendees will be able to take pictures, get, giveaway gifts, prizes, and some other items. But basically, the idea is for attendees with friends and family to get their pictures taken in anytime, learn about products by them, and specifically mostly the Instagram product. That in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So we'll turn it over to the team. Are you able to share your screen? I don't know if you have slides, but.
Yes, I am able to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can all see.
Yeah.
All good? Okay. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be here and meet with you guys. My name is Chance Peavy. I'm a senior account coordinator with Factory 360. Jason is a colleague of mine as well. Factory 360 has been around for 16 years. We're an experiential marketing agency, and we're doing this activation and series of events on behalf of what John said, Instax Fujifilm. And I've personally been with the company for 6 years. So before we get into this exact activation, we want to let you guys know that this tour is in its second year. We did this tour last year on the West Coast, and we did all the way from Seattle, Washington, all the way through California, and we went as far as east as Texas. And the tour went so well that the client, Instax Fujifilm, wanted to do this tour again on the East Coast. I am just coming back from Milwaukee. We just did an event at Summerfest. So that was our 6th activation, and time we get to Bryant Park in August. That will be around our 10th or 11th. So just giving some credibility to, we've been running this event very smoothly, efficiently, and we're self-sufficient on our own. So I'll get into what exactly it will look like. And again, this will be at Bryant Park. So we have 2 images here. Basically, it is a mobile retail display unit that we drive across from city to city, and then it is encapsulated with inflatables that look like a camera and form a camera. So it kind of creates this full interactive, fun experience. And what we really like to say about it is that it's a photo opportunity, a photo op from the moment you put your eyes on it. And then we just wanted to show you guys 2 images, basically that we've done this pop-up in, the picture on the left is a pop-up at Roots Picnic in Philadelphia. So we were in a park forest area. And then the picture on the right is more in a city area where we were at downtown Syracuse for their Taste of Syracuse event as a major food event there. So just giving you some different images of how we pop up. and some of the elements. But again, it's a mobile display unit, and then it's covered by inflatables, and then there's branding on each side of the inflatables. For Bryant Park, because Bryant Park is something special and an amazing area to be, and there's so many people, we wanted to do something that was just a little bit more special and add something on that would be different from any other stop that we would make. So this is what you are seeing here is another photo op that will be right adjacent to the footprint. And basically it is 3-sided, so it forms like a triangle, and consumers and people who want to go to the activation will start here and will be able to grab photos and take photos on any side that they would like of this photo op. Now, again, we do put in the guidelines that this is subject to change. We are working through the final creatives, but it will be something that is separate from the footprint that people will be able to get at least a different backdrop to take photos with us. So getting into the details, if anybody has exact questions. So it'll be on the upper terrace. In the next slide, I'll go over the actual site plan and the flow of traffic, but just letting you know, this will be on the upper terrace of Bryant Park. It will be Thursday, August 15th. The time frame will be 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So kind of giving a time frame for individuals who going to work late, definitely the lunch crowd, and then also giving individuals an opportunity to check out the activation after work. Event elements. So we have the photo op that I just showed. That's something new and different that we are doing exactly for Bryant Park. So you can learn about and capture the moment with our Instax printers. So we have the actual analog cameras that you could take physical photos of, and then we have printers where you could connect your phone to it and print out Instax photos as well. Inflatables. Why do you see so many inflatables in the backdrop? They're the ultimate attention grabber. Again, as soon as people see this, they're like, oh, this is a photo op. This is cool. This is colorful. It pops in whatever area it is. And then we also learned from the activations that I've done so far is that even for our least photogenic people, or people who are like, oh, I don't, really like taking a photo or might not be interested. Once people have a background and somebody we'll have brand ambassadors all over willing to help and assist. We kind of see people all kind of dive into it. And then from there, the outside inflatables kind of capture the attention. And then we're trying to draw people inside the mobile vehicle truck. So after you see the inflatables, the colors, our brand ambassadors will talk to you, give you information, guidance. We kind of let you guide into the truck, and in the truck, you can explore and interact with all Instax products. So as the consumer gets more comfortable from the outside, as they go in, they could take the cameras that are tethered on shelving units, and I'll show more pictures of that. And they can start to take photos as they want inside. And we try to encourage people to grab as many photos as possible. There's a whiteboard inside, as well as we have a gumball machine where they could get a gumball, and it has random acts of kindness, like share a hug or give a hug in that regards. Then we also gamify the experience as they exit the footprint. There's a claw machine, and just trying to have like a fun, jolly experience. These are all free, so people can click to play. And then they have a chance to win out of the claw machine sunglasses, pop sockets, tote bags, and bandanas. And even if they do not win, we do give a consolation prize, so everybody leaves with something outside of just photos. And then the treat, it's pending, but we had a conversation with Fuji earlier today, and they are leaning towards doing that. So we would also give away a branded popsicle from a local NYC popsicle vendor as people exit from the footprint. And then here is a picture of kind of the site plan and how it would look. So on your right side, what you're going to see is basically we will have stanchions, and we will allow people to line up the line to form that way and to flow there. And as the line builds, our brand ambassadors will meet people, let them know that they need to go through these stanchions, and then we'll have conversations about what is going on inside, what the activation is about, as well as sometimes we even ask people if they want to grab photos right then and there. So sometimes before they even get to the first photo op, they'll have 1 or 2 photos in their hand. The photo op, they'll get to pick which side of the wall. It's 3-sided. They'll get to pick which side they want to take photos on. They'll take photos there, and then we'll kind of funnel them inside the camera tube, and sometimes people take photos in the tube as well. And then from those many touch points, we make sure consumers are comfortable, and once they get inside the truck, we have more pictures to show, but basically they can be able to interact with each and every camera. Some people have older models of these cameras and want to try out different models. Some people have never heard of any of these products and kind of just go to what is drawn to them, and then they'll exit out on the left, and then we'll have the claw machine and also giving them a treat. What also is in this site plan is this little X you see on the bottom left is basically an individual inflatable that could be used as a backdrop. Sometimes people take pictures with their phone, or sometimes they ask our staff to grab a picture of them on one of the Instax cameras. And then this donut in the back is another individual inflatable as well. And then here are some guest interactions. So this is giving you guys more insight and more color on what is inside the truck. So you would go through the camera tunnel, and these bottom two photos, a lot of people take photos on the side because it's so colorful, a nice colorful background. And then this bottom right photo is there's a little bit 3 steps. You walk up, and then there's this backdrop that says "Share the Joy," which is kind of the name of the tour. And people take photos there. There's also a bench so you can sit, you can stand. And then from there they go inside. So once you go inside, you'll see a photo wall and a board, a whiteboard where people write notes, names. Roots Picnic, for example, a lot of people were saying Roots Picnic 2024, and then they'll write their name, hearts. So a lot of that is going on there. And then as you can see in the background of some of these other photos, there are these shelves, and on these shelves we have 3 or 4 different Instax products, cameras, and people could play with the different cameras and take different shots and see how the different products are different from each other and which one they honestly prefer. And then on the way out, there's a gumball machine where you can see on the picture on the left, and then there's the claw machine that people could play as well. And that is everything. So for my presentation, thank you again.
So I'll turn it over to John and Todd first, if you have any outstanding questions.
Sure. I'll leave the, I know Todd, like to talk about the styles.
Yeah.
Provisions, I'll let him go to that area, then I'll follow up. But, having, reviewed the whole application, I do have a couple of concerns. I did talk to them.
Oh, great.
This afternoon.
Oh, cool.
Got late.
Thank you.
Very late. But I got it in.
All good.
I appreciate that. Thanks, everyone.
So first, it's my understanding that you have 10 to 12 people to manage this event, but you're expecting upwards of 4,000, possibly more. How did you arrive? First of all, could you give me a sense of the allocation of that 10 to 12 people? Does that involve security and sanitation as well as the brand ambassadors and people inside the truck working with people? If you could just give me a sense of what that number represents. It does indicate from the surface, potentially could be quite small when you get that size.
Yeah, no problem at all. So that 3,000 to 4,000 mark is actually and the 12 people is based off of what we've been doing in prior markets. So we will have, in this case, we did up the number because we understand how foot traffic works at Bryant Park. So you would have 8 brand ambassadors that will cover the lay of the land and will be in strategic areas to communicate, express, and handle line management and get people through the activation, as well as letting them be aware of what's going on. And then the remaining 4, we will have 2 people. Basically, there is no, the only outward trash would be from the popsicles. Everything else we would self-contain and regulate. So we'll have 1 or 2 people. We call them our tour managers. So they handle all the assets and facilitation and make sure stuff is clean, trash is being thrown away, and making sure that assets are not only set up correctly throughout the footprint, but make sure that they are maintained as well through foot traffic. And then the other 2 people are actually playing, we call them runners or floaters, and they are kind of helping flow to any situation in need or to address any situation that is going on in footprint, or to provide extra support to one of the brand ambassadors or any other area of the footprint.
And how would you handle, along the same lines regarding the crowd? Suppose you have long queues, how are those being addressed? Maybe you could put up the,
Oh, yeah.
the site map so I can we can get a better feel for
Yeah, so
into the footprint and where they're likely to be queues.
yeah. So right now, basically what this queue is, this rectangular shape, this will probably fit up to 80 people based off of what we have done at other events. And our goal and what we found successful from other activations is to engage people and to have conversations with people as soon as they are in the line, keeping them grabbing their attention, getting everybody opportunity to grab a photo before they go into the activation. And then in this area alone, we'll probably have 3 brand ambassadors, just helping with the event flow. And not to repeat myself, but what we've seen that really helps out is just making sure that we're talking and we're engaging people as they are waiting online. And then we manage the line as we are engaging them.
And can people, other people who are in the park, can you show how they can move, let's say, from 42nd Street to 41st Street? Because you will be in the.
I can speak to that actually. Kelly Collins, right there. So there's egress actually behind that structure here. So all folks who are on the upper terrace are still going to be able to go back and forth as normal, as well as the ADA ramps on either side are there.
And then I could just add on to Kelly's point. And also you guys don't have to worry. Everything is branded on the truck, and our actual back of house is inside the inflatable. So we don't need any private area or need to close anything off or like block anything off. Back to our point, we're all self-sufficient within the inflatables that are covering the mobile vehicle.
It's my understanding, no alcohol, no food, from that you're selling or from the outside. So how are you going to manage? That's quite a large number of people. How are you what's your policy if people bring items to the event?
Yeah. So, as far as alcohol and food comes, we are going to let people know that we are not allowing alcohol within our footprint or like large plates of food or anything like that. From the moment that they get online, we're going to let people be aware of that they cannot enter from there, but not in a negative manner or anything like that. We're just letting them know like, hey, let you finish your drink or your meal or anything like that. And then you could get online and proceed to go inside. So we kind of want to address that very much in the beginning, but we're only going to be strict towards alcohol or like large plates of food or anything like that. But if you have like a bottle of water or a soda or anything like that, or like, I guess, or munching on a cookie or anything like that, you will be okay to proceed within the footprint.
And could you speak just briefly to the whole giveaway process? How are you going to manage that? How many items, how many people are you prepared to have to give items to? It's my understanding it's a combination of giveaways, and contests or games or what have you. If you could speak to that, because there have been some instances lately in the parks in New York City where crowds are, trying to go after a limited number of giveaway items.
Yeah, so we so we deal with that all the time. So we are going to make sure that the main thing, which is the photos, is that the 3,000 to 4,000 people in the crowd are going to have an opportunity to at least get 5 to 10 photos. So that's the main thing we'll make sure that that's given. We will have enough film because we order that all in advance. So we'll do the estimate towards 5 to 10 for each person, and we'll base it on the higher end of 4,000. And then just so you guys know, any film, or if we were to over buy film, we would just use that for our next event in the tour. As for the other premiums, we're estimating a combination of premiums within 5,000 to 6,000 range, and that's not including how many treats we would also offer along with that. So we believe that should be sufficient. And what we saw from other events that we have done, when we have ran out of premiums or stuff like that, because the major giveaway is taking photos for people, that there was not much of a disappointment or anger or anything like that towards missing out on premiums before or giveaways if they've seen earlier. As long as people are grabbing photos, that's the main thing. People are really excited, and then the other items are kind of like a surprise and delight afterwards.
And also, I just want to add in what if ever we're at an event and we see that people are online waiting for something specifically, let's say it's one of these treats that we might have a little bit less of, we are very cognizant of that fact. And if there is a long line of people waiting, we will tell them, hey guys, just want to let you know, if you're in line hoping to get X, Y, or Z, we just ran out, or you might not get one. It might be gone by the time you get there. Because we also don't want anyone to be upset or think they're waiting online to get something that they can't get. So that's another reason why we have all of our brand ambassadors, so we can over communicate to guests to make sure that they have a good experience.
And then also, John, just wanted to add some more context to the foot traffic. So if we don't have a long line or anything like that, we let people or allow people to be within the footprint for over like maybe 7 to 8 minutes. But if we do have a long line, we do have practices and protocols to get people within the space and have a full experience between the 3 to 4 minute mark. So yeah, we have those practices in place, and the town and the stuff, and the flow and the attendees are our estimate across the day. So it wouldn't be, the most we've seen at once has been like maybe 80 to 90 people, but across the day would be around 3,000, 4,000. We never had an instance where it was like 1,000 or 1,500 people waiting online.
And one last area, and now I'd like to come in on the signage. Sound, can you speak to sound? I know you need to amplify sound, but can you just speak to, again, we're talking about a relatively large crowd. What's your experience at other events? What impact will that have on the neighborhood park?
Yeah, so our footprint ourselves is extremely quiet. The only thing you're gonna hear is maybe the blowers from our air machines, and that is very, very minute, and it's kind of like a background noise. And as far as music and stuff, we do have a speaker that plays music off of our selected Spotify playlist that plays inside the mobile unit itself. And wait, hold on. You can only hear that music within the truck. So we're relatively quiet. Most of the sounds that you'll hear are usually whatever's going on in the background. So we've done a lot of music festivals and stuff like that, and we kind of are just like in the background or in the noise of the area. So we ourselves don't contribute a lot of noise. And that's from setup to activation to breakdown. We're relatively quiet and efficient and quick.
And then as a lead up, and now that Todd come in, it's my understanding that you're taking pictures of the attendees, but some of those may be left around. I'm not sure whether each person takes all the pictures or whether some are left on boards, what have you. Furthermore, it's my understanding that you will be doing some video potentially for social media. So maybe we could speak to that a little bit, and then my colleague is gonna may ask you some questions about the signage associated with that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so we do grab content for this event. All the content that we do grab for this event is used for social media, but it's more big picture, the show, the tour, and where it's at, and kind of just promote it as a tour stop on our grand tour. This event will be one of 50 activation dates. And then on the other side of that, the photos themselves, we do push people to take the photos. So we are taking as many photos as consumers like, and then we push them to take them. And usually we haven't had a problem of people leaving their photos or giving them back. Everybody kind of takes them and leaves with like 5 to 10 photos on average. And then as far as communicating that to the consumers, we do have signage that will be all around the footprint that is a photography notice, and it lets everybody know the rules and stuff and what we're expecting. And so making them aware that we will be videotaping or taking photos or content and much.
And also to build on that, if someone does leave a photo, we will throw it away. And also to clarify, in the image, you see a photo wall there. That is a permanent photo wall with plexiglass over it. That's not something where guests are putting up their own photos. So we are not taking any of the photos that guests take. They leave with them or we discard them afterward. And also the videos, any videos that we take for social media are of the footprint. But, you know, when we take any images of people in the footprint, it's for internal purposes only, not for social media.
Yeah. And then I could also show what the signage would look like if that helps as well.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. 1 second. One second, sorry. Yeah, so this is what the information that would be on the signage. So it says filming will be taking place at this event for the purposes of capturing footage for Instax and internal marketing purposes only. By entering the designated filming area, you hereby consent to be filmed and photographed. We kindly request your cooperation and understanding throughout the film process. Then we list out all the information of the event. So Thursday, August 15th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Bryant Park, New York City. The footage will be used for Instax and at Factory 360. And then as we conduct filming activities, please be aware of your rights and responsibilities. So following the New York City laws and guidelines, the right to refusal. So if you do not wish to be filmed or appear in the footage, please notify the filming crew or event staff promptly. So that would be any of our brand ambassadors, and all of them will be privy to this script and will make efforts to accommodate guests throughout their experience. And then we note the privacy clause. New York City allows the filming of individuals in public spaces without their consent. By attending this event, you acknowledge that you may appear in footage or give your implicit consent for such use. And then we have the compliance. All of these activities will be applicable to laws, regulations, and guidelines, including safety and health. And then equipment and personnel. The filming crew will use professional cameras and equipment. Please be cautious around the equipment and follow any instructions by the crew. And then we'll put the last notice. We strive to create an enjoyable experience for all attendees while capturing the essence of this event. If you have any questions or concerns regarding the filming activities, please feel free to find someone working this event to discuss further. And we won't make that hard. They'll be able to talk to anybody that's branded or walking around, and the right person will help facilitate that conversation.
Okay, so I'd like to thank John for leading a very thorough due diligence discussion. And I just want to comment briefly on the signage. So again, as I understand your activation, most of it is going to be people taking their own pictures, but it is the case that your own people are going to be taking video and possibly still shots of various people as part of your marketing campaigns and using it. So our community board has a policy stretching back several years that we discourage, as you say it, the implicit agreement of people who just attend or enter to be taken as permission of their digital images to be used for marketing and promotion. So, that's always a concern. What we prefer to see is language clearly stating that any use of somebody's image or appearance requires their express permission, not their their express permission, not their implicit permission. So I would take issue with number 2. It's true that the city allows individuals filming in public spaces. According to our understanding of the law, it is not true that you can use it without their express permission. So that being said, I would urge, I don't know how much of a practical issue that really is in this activation. There is also, we're not really concerned with de minimis. If you get the back of somebody's head, or you're taking, distant shots where you can't really see people's faces. What we're concerned with is if somebody's face in a medium range shot shows that, the people doing the activation take the effort to get their explicit permission or just not use it. So do you have any flexibility, or can you give us any assurances, or can you go back and possibly, speak to your people about revising this warning? Because it's not exactly what we'd like to see in terms of our community board's policies.
Yeah. Oh, Jason, did you want to?
No, I mean, this is, this wording has been dictated to us, we've run it by our client and we've used it at the other events. We are always open, we can ask them, we don't know what they will say, but we want to make sure that everyone is happy. And I would like to say that we are always very cognizant of people who don't want to be filmed and don't want to have their images taken. And whenever anyone brings that up to us at an event, which I don't believe has happened maybe once or twice in my many years, but we always take them outside of the footprint, and then we give them as much of the experience as we can from there. So if we want to bring them a camera that they can interact with, let them give them any of the premiums that we're giving away so that they can experience it without having to have their picture taken if that is something that they are really adverse to. We do want to ensure that everyone, like I said earlier, we do want to make sure that everyone has an enjoyable experience and no one walks away feeling upset about anything.
Okay, well, look, please take this back to your lawyers and your sponsors and make this point. And in terms of getting our approval in our signing off in this, we would like to be able to say that you will not be using anybody's digital image without their explicit consent, right? So, think it over. Overall, I agree with much of what John says. Your activation is well within the bounds of other things we've seen. And all we're trying to do is protect the privacy rights of people in a public space and make sure that they don't find themselves showing up in a social media posts or other places, and they haven't explicitly agreed for that to happen.
Understood. We will take this under advisement and we will also consult with our counsel. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Todd, do you have other questions? Or I know Charles has his hand up as well. Oh, and
the other questions I have is, as we always do, the signage and the colors and the suitability I think that's just a matter of taste and opinion, whether it's too big or too small. And our committee will pass judgment on that when we apply our matrix to this. Other than that, I have no further questions.
Okay, great, thanks, Chad. Michael Kback.
Yeah, I got a bunch of questions. So just to understand the purpose of this, August 15th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. is to sell Instax cameras? Yes or no?
No, actually, the intent of the event is not to sell. It's actually just to spread awareness. So I was having this conversation with John.
Right, sell, right. No, I didn't mean so. So spread awareness. So I had it right. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I don't want to interrupt, but we're running long. Now you mentioned something about a mobile truck. Where?
Yeah. If I could zoom in. Yeah, sorry.
Is it on the street? Is it on the, up on the,
It's like part of the inflatable. It's like
So if you're looking at this image right here, the picture of the camera, the inflatable basically has a hollow U in the center. So there's a truck that's surrounded by the inflatable on 3 sides.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's
Okay, got it.
encapsulated by the inflatables. Yep.
Now you said everybody's gonna go away with a prize. I'm taking that's the film that you're gonna give them, the picture?
Yeah, so we take pictures of people and people can take pictures of themselves in the truck, in the vehicle. So you leave away with like 5 to 10 photos, and then on the way out they'll either have a chance to play with the claw machine to win a prize, or as a consolation, we'll give a 1-hour giveaways to consumers.
You give away a prize as a consolation, and what is that prize?
Yeah, so it would be either, sorry, listed here. So we either we have sunglasses, pop sockets, tote bags, and bandanas.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question, which is about the trash and the cleanup and the sanitation in the area. No food, that's great. But what about the plastic that the sunglasses and stuff is gonna be wrapped in? Are you supplying the trash cans, or will Bryant Park have their own?
So we'll work with them together, like what we've done in previous years with them. They will have their own receptacles, but they will be working with us and our sanitation team to ensure that the park is on.
There's plenty of there's plenty of barrels up there to collect stuff. That's great. Okay, now you know that every weekday, and this is on a Thursday, between 12:30 and 2:30 on the veranda just to the north of the statue of William Cullen Bryant, there is a person who plays piano. That week, I think it's my favorite person.
There is no conflict.
No conflict.
No conflict.
What's happening? So they're gonna have the piano at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Cool. You guys gonna have music, you'll.
Oh, we like that.
Now, next question, is there air conditioning gonna be in the tent? So August could be a really hot day. I see everything's enclosed. You got air blowing through there, or?
Yeah, so a lot of people say that they enjoy our footprint because as soon as they walk inside the truck, it's AC'd and they get a nice cool refresher. And that's why we also want to do the treat at the end as well. So there's AC inside the unit, and then it's cool under the tunnel too because it's blocking the sun as well.
Okay, and the last is, am I seeing the similarities between a Polaroid that I grew up with, a Polaroid camera, and this Instax camera? Is that what?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
We are forbidden for saying that word by our client, but
that's
you're
why
on
we
track.
that's why we haven't mentioned it. But it is I like to say it is their direct it's their direct competitor. And another reason why they're doing this tour is to familiarize people with Instax and their different products and services, because a lot of people are still saying Polaroid. That's a major reason why we're doing tours and big activations like this to change that narrative.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Charles, I see your hand up. There's anything?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I was just wondering if the speaker could please elaborate. Earlier in the presentation, the the phrase subject to change was used, I'm concerned because as someone who's going to vote on this application, I want to know if I vote for it, when you say subject to change, does that mean that after I vote for it, something in this project is going to change? That's what I'm concerned about. And maybe you could elaborate more on that. And also, when it comes to the signage about consent to pictures, I'm concerned about those in the age range of 17 to 21 who years old who might not be in, have the mental capacity to fully understand what consenting is to their image being used. And also, do you have a policy on if there's a family and they you guys are gonna say, hey, you consent to having your picture taken. How's that gonna relate to a family who have children, things like that? And again, I don't understand, why is it very important, and maybe you could please elaborate, for a company to need to have photos of members of the public for their internal use when they could just simply have someone outside the event counting how many people are going through? So I don't understand how this is so important for a company. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I can answer the first question. The subject to change part was basically the separate photo op that will be adjacent to the footprint that is only for this activation. The image that we're showing today is on 3 different backdrops, and they have like different colors and different layout, and the emphasis, what it is, the essence of it will be pretty much the same. We're just saying that the color backdrops may change or may be altered to fit what the client deems best. So that's the only thing subject to change. So it wouldn't be like something totally new or something completely different. Like the suggestion we have from the client today is that this Instax logo that's in the middle of the backdrop, they want it more to like the top right hand corner instead. So it would be small iterations like that. We wouldn't come with a whole entire footprint. To your second question, for the sign and with the families, we have come across that families have read the sign and have been okay with the procedures and the consent. It hasn't been a major issue or concern, but we'll definitely take that back. And then lastly, as far as content capture, the content capture is just proof of event, and people can't see or understand how an event went or valued without pictures or getting a grasp of what it is. So that's.
Sorry, I just have a quick follow-up question. But you could have people filling out surveys or even online surveys to get how they felt about the event without photography, right? Isn't that right?
Potentially, that's something we would have to talk back to the client about, for sure. But that's feedback we could definitely take back to them.
And also to reiterate, the main reason for the content capture, the photo and the video, is for internal purposes. As you can imagine, with most companies, they're quite large, and bosses and people at different levels of the company want to know what is happening and how the event went. And a picture is worth 1,000 words, and when people can see the images of what it actually looks like, and people enjoying themselves, it does go quite a long way.
One quick thing, last thing. But you also could show the demographics of which races are interacting and which age groups and things like that, correct?
Great, thanks for those thoughts and comments, Charles, and for the team. Yeah, it's a whole new world of marketing and activation. Did you have another follow-on question, John?
Yeah, just in the interest of accuracy.
Yeah.
I noticed in the presentation, you're saying that the giveaway, the sunglasses, tote bags, bandanas. What is that? Sunglasses, tote bag. I'm just reading what was on the screen, and bandanas, I believe. But in the application, you refer to picnic blankets, drink floaties, gumballs, frames with images. And I think, both presentations have popsicles now, which now you're gonna have the ability to pick up the trash associated with that. But can you speak to, personally, I'm not concerned with which of those items you have, but it leads to a broader issue. Could you change all these items to something else that may result in an issue that we haven't thought about?
No, thank you for bringing that up. So it would stay within the items that you listed and the items here. So it wouldn't change outside of that realm. And then as far as trash, because I know this was brought up a few times, basically all of these products are unwrapped. So when people grab them or grab them from the claw machines or from our brand ambassadors and staff, there is no plastic or additional packaging around it.
Except for the popsicles, right?
Yeah, except for the popsicles. And the popsicles will have a team that would be dedicated to making sure that those are put in the right trash receptacles, along with working with Kelly's team.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, questions from attendees? Yeah, go for it. And can you say your name?
Hi, I'm Shayna. I'm just a member of the public. Shayna Peters. So you said that your filming is going to be for internal use only, but often with data breaches, internal use only stuff becomes external. How were you securing all of these videos so people make sure that it doesn't get leaked?
Yeah. Yeah, I can speak to that. So we at Factory 360, we have security processes, fail-safe systems within our own company, within sharing information and data with our clients. And we have cybersecurity protocols and stuff like that put in place for things like that.
But also to clarify, we're not capturing any personal data. We don't, no names or any information. None of that is being captured on site. No personal information.
That question. Any questions online? Oh, yeah, sorry. Any questions online? Okay, seeing none, thank you for participating. Happy to have you here for the public. We'll move back into committee. Usually we move into comments, but maybe we can move to the session straight away. That sounds good. Okay, so
Are we voting on this or?
we will. What we'll do first is part of our process is that we have kind of a matrix or rubric that we run through in terms of like, so we can calibrate how we think about these types of activations in a similar fashion. And does anyone have any comments before we run through the matrix? Okay, just making sure I'm not missing hands. Okay, seeing none. I'm not sure, John and Todd, if you had discussed.
It's all happening in town.
Yeah, yes, of course, I understand. And we just learned a lot more, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I can go through the matrix that we all have.
Sorry, we should have brought you a copy next time. Apologies.
Just so forewarning, at the end of the day, I'm probably coming up with a 3 on this, which I noticed that maybe disagree various views, but I'll put it in mind. But I'm open to changes. So first is footprint. It is a large event, no doubt. When it's important, 1,000 people, but it is limited to a very specific area of Bryant Park. So I wouldn't call it a small area. I would call it the whole park. Even so I'm going to agree. Right.
I'd like to know how quickly people are going through this thing.
I think you said earlier, I think
Thinking that if it's
Singer and,
following 7 or 8 minutes, and they have
Three
a
or four.
protocol, it would be
About
3 to
6
4.
minutes. Do the math.
Maybe
4,000.
like 100 people per hour. It's really
Right. Right. It's a 10 hours, good. This is all, yes.
And it's not gonna be all at the same time.
No, and as they said, they will, I'll speed it up and slow it down, depending on how. Okay, next one is timing. And I'll just go this for the new member.
I'm just putting this up here.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
got
I
it.
sent an email.
So, not appropriate or appropriate, I'm gonna, for the time of day, I'm gonna give it a 3. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, next one, duration, a few hours, several days. It's 1 day, so I'm giving it a 3. Setup, breakdown, actually, I'm gonna give this one a 4. I had a discussion with the applicant.
Yeah.
They're bringing most of this equipment in on a truck. I mean, on a second truck. They drop it down and again, they're able to pick it up and take it out pretty quickly. Yeah, it's faster than most, setups and breakdowns. So I'm gonna give that one a 4. Commercial merchandising, this is clearly, a very, merchandising signage. I'm at 2.
Yeah.
Impact on residents, and I'm talking about uses of the park. It's segregated in one area of the park, but it's still an important part of the park. I'm gonna put it 3. Impact on land, on park land infrastructure. No, not a lot of garbage, but we're still talking about a lot of people, so I'm gonna go with, I can go with 3 or 4 now.
Give them 4 for that.
Yes, okay. Unique, how unique is the event? I'm gonna put 3 there. Audience,
Physical photos.
you say 4, okay. Fine.
Analog.
What, well,
Yeah.
I have actually 3 or 4. So I'm fine with 4. Audience, now, on one level, you could argue this is the national audience, but we are talking about photographs being taken of people. It's just different. It's a little twist.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna split the difference and say 3.
I would have said 5 for that.
You want to 5?
Well, it's local
Yeah,
people
yeah.
showing up to the event.
Okay. But it's a national brand. 5.
With local hospital. Yeah.
Okay. That's just gonna make it easy to pass. Sound, public benefit. People who love the photograph.
Great.
So, as I said at the beginning.
Well, I mean, I would just say with the impacted residents, and when we have it as 3, I mean, that's what it's all for. Before event. Right. So it's a positive impact of people, and then I get it, it's not for the city, but I would rank it high. Which one is that? Impact and residents. And it doesn't seem to be like they're playing music outside. Pianists can sort of perform.
Well, let me clarify about it. The purpose of this, actually, everybody. Wants to love and operate, check about it, and systematic. Yeah, also regarding the uses of park. Payment and competition. Intention I had here.
Well, is there another
Some of our colleagues on the board say, yes, there are a lot of people think like, but it's a commercial event, therefore, public, benefit is suspect.
Which then our point is, it takes events like this in order to allow Kelly to have so much robust programming. Since they don't get fully funded by the city, they have to raise money through activation.
Right, but are we competing with a non-commercial event at the same time? Or not? And this is during a weekend.
Right. Did you have a?
So the main thrust here, for the years that I've been on the committee, is to understand that this is a great park. Take a look outside, there's
I
1,000
know.
people.
I see
I'm
everyone
out there every
watching.
day. I was there today listening to piano and listening to a great book talk about a movie.
Yeah.
That was super. So I did 2 events today there. I'm there pretty much every day. And I love this park and I like to see it funded. And this is a main way that it gets funded. And they have to pay the people who walk around and Susan and like that. So we sometimes, look at it with that as a backstop and encourage their this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is one of your.
Or.
Four.
Four events for the year.
So these types of events, that's my full job. My whole job at Bryant Park is to work with these amazing agencies and these brands who not only want to come into the park and enjoy it, but also bring their positivity into our park and then give us that money that's getting to fund the things like piano, movie nights, picnics, yoga, I mean, you name it. We would never be able to run the events we do here without brands. That's a fact.
Just let me say this. We get up, go look at.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Fantastic, for the city. So it's.
Todd, I see your hand up. Sorry, I didn't mean to not call on you.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
So, for the most part, I agree with the matrix. My statements on the digital disclosure and permission is obvious. I must say that this kind of activation is well within the mainstream of what we've accepted. This is the price we pay for having the public-private partnerships get enough revenue to cover what the city can't or won't pay. And I would recommend that we approve it. Not to say it's ideal, but again, looking back on the totality of what we've accepted in the past, it is acceptable.
Okay, great. So Charles, I see your hand up as well, and then I think we'll move to resolution and vote. Go ahead, Charles.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, reluctantly, I'm gonna probably vote yes, but I just want to say I feel dissatisfied that I feel like the public are not getting a good return on what they are sacrificing by going into this event. I don't mean to be offensive, but I don't think the rewards that they're getting are of high value. I don't think they are, I just don't think they're of good quality. And I would expect better rewards for this type of event. But I'm going to go with my fellow board members and, vote yes, but very, very reluctantly, unfortunately. And I hope that in the future, other activations will think hard and seriously about what kind of rewards they are offering to the public, because I just don't think bandanas and these sort of gifts are of any high value or quality. And one last thing is, I think that if pictures are going to be used internally, I think there's a good question of should people be compensated for their image being used internally, or some sort of royalty for their image being used in that way. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for those comments, Charles. Yes, Michael.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this application.
I'd second that. Speaks to what talk. This is
some sort of condition or we're saying? Because we keep going back on this whole language issue, and I don't think we've ever really.
Well, I think the issue is New York City law
Right.
does not, that, says that we are allowed to take.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
So does it?
Oh, yeah.
So just so this group is aware, in every single one of these agreements that we do with these grants, they are required to review any and all language on every single piece of signage with their in-house counsel. In addition, we review all of their language with our in-house counsel. These languages, this signage is 100% legal and open. Period.
At that time.
I just. That in general, like, I get more concerned because of your secondary purpose.
Yeah.
Like, if it's going with a social purpose or something, then you have to. Or like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Can somebody repeat for me what was said? I can't make it out.
Michael Southworth just said that he has less of a problem when it's for internal purposes. There isn't a paid social media post where it would be an additional advertising purpose.
Is he here?
Is your way.
Okay, so,
So I'm sorry for that.
Right. I think with, I mean,
A clarity of one issue, and it's, we have language in this resolution.
I think it can include language supporting inclusion of signage that addresses this, but they're meeting the threshold of what's required.
You deny with stipulations, but you can't approve with stipulations.
You want to improve it less.
I don't think we're asking them to change anything.
Not gonna change.
Right.
I would like to hear one, I'd like to hear Todd one more time.
Todd, one more time.
Okay, I'm not hearing very much of what is being said. I really missed we don't have the owls here, do we?
Yeah.
You gotta come to the meeting.
Okay, so what I would say is I would structure it, just put in a condition that they will make best efforts to get the explicit permission of the people not to have their digital images used without their permission. I appreciate the fact that they're reviewing it according to their standards, but our standards are that the express permission of the people in the park are respected. Okay, that's what we've done traditionally. And look, we can't force them. And the people, they're running Bryant Park according to their policies, but we should stick up for the rights of the individuals and make this point by saying best efforts. We're doing the utmost we can. We're not going to reject this, right? As I said, it's well within the mainstream of what we've done before, but to be consistent with our precedents, we should put in a condition simply saying that they made best efforts to get the permission of the people that are going there before, and that they not use any of the imagery without their permission in their social media that would be used or made available to the public on park.
Great, that sounds like a good.
We assume that that's part of, Mike's,
Well, then,
no, you just did, I'm just saying.
That's
saying
nice.
what I just said, so that's.
Charles, did you have something additional to add before we move on?
Two quick things. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that don't forget there are people who are print disabled, and there are those who might not be able to understand what the sign says. So along with the sign, I think it's important for ambassadors from the the activation to really emphasize, what's going on. And, when there's movie shoots happening and things like that, there's people that will sign releases and things like that. So I'm surprised that nothing like that is happening. But if something could be more emphasized, that would be great. And my last thing is, I just wanted to concur with my fellow board member Todd that at times that it is hard to understand what's happening in the in-person meeting. I have struggled with hearing the board member who introduced this particular applicant. So I just want to let you guys know that I'm also having some audio issues.
Sorry about that. Our tech isn't working as it is meant to tonight. So we also are mostly reading the transcript instead of being able to hear. So thanks everyone for bearing with us. So back to resolution with best efforts.
Sorry, I have to run.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Good luck with the announcement.
So,
Fantastic. So we'll take it to a vote.
and the resolution reads, who's gonna write this up? Right, John, you got it, how's it gonna read?
approving,
As is,
approving as is.
I agree.
Second, and I'm gonna add the best of it.
Second,
Yes, I second it. I assume John and I will write the resolution.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay, running through first time doing this, so here, 9. Charles,
those would take.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you properly. I do apologize. Yes.
Harris, Ellington,
Yes.
Paul? Yes. Payback,
Yes.
Southward,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Vikram,
Yes.
and then some. Yes. Great. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Todd, and everyone for your comments. And thank you, Jason and Chance. We're excited to see this happen. Grateful for your support of Bryant Park. Despite our conversation.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, so we do have another item. This will be a letter of support, just so you have a heads up on that. And very grateful to Michael Payback, who took the time to get to know more about its very important moment, which is a bit of a memorial plaque that honors very special people in New York City history. I have a couple of images, and I think that we also have Gail on the phone as well to hopefully be able to join and say a couple words. I'm sure that's right. Okay. I just promoted you to a panelist. Okay. Great. So do you want to set us up with a little bit of context, Michael, or? Oh, hey, Gail. Good to see you.
So I read all that, and apparently there was this great gentleman who was advocating for LGBT. Gail, how about you, just you tell us?
Yeah.
Oh, Gail.
And so I'll just give a little more context. In 2009, CB5 approved the installation of a memorial plaque. We're here tonight to talk about some upkeep and maintenance and restoration around that Gail has so kindly brought to our attention, that it's a bit of a desperate need around it. It is in Union Square Park. We have spoken with Union Square Park Partnership, and they are on board to support what comes out of tonight. And what will happen after our letter of support, that will go to Councilmember Carolina Rivera, who is eager to hear from us on our thoughts and wants to also lend her support. So that's kind of like the progression of how this will play out. But Yeah, great to see you, Gail, but would love to hear a little more about, and I have some of the photos if you want me to screen share
Yeah.
it.
Yes, please. Because I'm up here in the corner, feel free to show what it looks like now and so on. And hi, I was a vice chair of Union Square Park Community Coalition, known as USCC, and then co-chair of USCC for more than 10 years. I do want to thank you, the committee, for your community service. And I also express my appreciation to District Manager Marissa Mack for giving me the steps to request the letter of support to enhance and plant the area in Union Square Park by the carved stone Oliver, a memorial placed years ago, carved by Adrian Benepe's brother. You may remember Adrian Benepe, Parks Commissioner, and Barry Benepe's son.
Now, but I think we're gonna switch to Libby's audio. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
I should pick up again where I left off.
Oh, you're here, a little bit of an echo. If everyone else,
Just that the stone was carved by Adrian Benepe's brother. It was placed in memory of Oliver Johnston by Evelyn Strauss and supported by Jack Taylor. In the 80s, Oliver was a co-chair with Evelyn of the USCC, and they were a very active nonprofit community group that's founded by Evelyn, who was also here on the Parks Committee at CB5 in the past. In the 80s, Union Square Park had a major renovation and was closed for a year. Evelyn and Oliver worked strenuously on the project, and Oliver was Evelyn's rock. Oliver and Evelyn championed Ladies Mile designation with Jack Taylor. Oliver also raised funds for Bailey House, now Housing Works, for the AIDS Resource Center. The auction program was titled 100 Hearts and has grown since 1989 from a few $1,000s to 100-fold. In their gratitude, Bailey House recognized Oliver with a posthumous award. Oliver died of AIDS in 1990. He and a group of 6 activists designed and created the campaign, Silence Equals Death, when President Reagan refused to say the word AIDS, and they launched up the world-famous ACT UP advocacy movement, which defined AIDS awareness everywhere. During Madonna's recent tour, she read names for the AIDS Memorial, and Oliver's name was prominently in the top group. So over the past 20 years at the behest of Jack Taylor, I have been the caretaker of the Oliver Monument when there were leaves or snow covering the stone. Initially, a crabapple tree was planted at the site, and last year the tree became diseased and had to be taken out. The area has 2 additional trees, one in front, one in back, so I'm not asking for a tree here. I am seeking planting and ongoing maintenance of this special area. And recently, Oliver's family and I, his siblings, connected through an introduction. Since I'm local and active, I am facilitating this heartfelt request in collective gratitude for all that Oliver did in his short life. And in closing, I am honored to say, Oliver lived his life epitomizing the phrase, think globally, act locally. Thank you for listening and your consideration. Are you going to show the pictures? As it is now.
okay. So this is one of them. And then, I'm sorry about the echo, everyone. And then we have
I think this shows a little more context about where it is. Oh, I see it.
It's adjacent to the dog run.
Is that it?
Right for Charles too.
In there. We are exit.
Yeah.
So Charles, we're just looking at a picture of the entrance to the dog run in Union Square. And just to the right part where the path is to go in, there's a dirt ground area with some bushes in the far closer to the farmer's market side. And to the path side, you can see where the tree's been taken out. And it's between those two places, just adjacent to the right of the dog run fence, that there's the Oliver Stone.
Great. And then I have one other photo. Can you still hear us, Gail?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, we're tinkering with our audio. I know you sent me one more that was so great. Let me see. And is this some of your work that you've done here?
No, this is a wish that it would look like this, with some stones in a circle around and some flowers, Oliver love flowers. It could be a rose bush, it could be pansies. I have some other renderings like that. So this is the wish, that there be something of that.
It's really special. So again, I just want to reiterate that currently this is a bit of a kind of unofficial installation that is supported by Union Square Partnership, and Ed Janoff has lent his support to the ongoing maintenance and restoration and upkeep of it. So he is also happy to support our letter. Do you have any questions, Michael, or anything else you want to add?
Yes, I have a question. I didn't get all of these pictures.
Oh, I know, we just got them, yeah.
So I'm curious as to, the maintenance is gonna be done by Gail's gonna take care of this herself? Or she has somebody that she's gonna have weed the area, plant a tree or two or a bush, make sure that the detritus doesn't gather around the area, build a fence around the area, just exactly maybe what's gonna, listen, I'm all for this. I think it's really great, especially today, 2 days after the Gay Pride Parade, I just would like to understand it. So when I walk through the park on the way to our next board meeting at very close by, I'm going to look for it, and I want to know what it's going to look for. A little rock now, I'm guessing it's like 14 inches by 8 inches and 3 inches thick. It's tapered to the top, it looks like. But describe for us, give us a picture of what it's going to look like, please.
Well, I anticipate interfacing, with the bid, and they have a landscape company. And during this process of, before getting to you, I had interfaced with Carlina's office. I'm sure you know many of the people there, several of her deputies. And at Parks, I interfaced with the New York City Commissioner, Tricia Shiamara. And I took, when there were emails going out, I took a name off it, Max Goodstein from Parks. I don't know if any of them are here today, but they've all been communicating back to me and indicating that we will talk further. And I got one email that said they appreciated that I spearheaded this. And, I've been the caretaker, and I will interface, but the family will also.
But I'm looking for a description for me and for Charles and I, just what we are going to be seeing.
Well, that will depend on Parks regulations, but this would be a rendition, and the actual flowers could be, what makes the most sense. I'm not a gardener, but this would be just a wishful thought.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gail. This is a cool rendering. Do you have another question, Michael, before I go to other hands? Okay, any hands here? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for your service to the community. I would take this one step further. Would you like a plaque there that describes Oliver's legacy? I mean, it's a very old stone, but would you like something that's more of a commemorative plaque that describes who Oliver was and what his contribution has been?
That's an excellent thought, and we could come back to you with that if we have Parks permission. But at this point, the step is, to enhance and improve the area.
In my mind, that would be an
Yeah.
improvement to the area, but.
I just I had the same question too, of if this is sort of unofficial, that maybe it's worth considering in the future, going through some of that process to make it more official, to communicate some of that story that you've shared with us.
Yeah, we could definitely put that in our letter.
Yeah,
encouraging-
like to follow up
Yeah.
for the process.
Yeah.
I will send it to Marissa in the morning. Is that okay?
Perfect. That would be fantastic, Gail. Thank you.
And as far as the question about could there be more of an explanation, if you wanted to put that in the letter to ask, I'm certainly appreciative of that.
Cool. Great. Okay, Charles, I see your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair, I do apologize. Madam Chair, I'm so sorry. I feel so emotional about this, and I'm really in favor. And I don't know if there's anything more what our committee can do, maybe a resolution, maybe something more powerful than a letter. I don't know if the letter is as equally as powerful as what we can do, but I am totally in favor, and I'm sorry, I do apologize, this is not a question, but this is just, I just feel like I hope we can go above and beyond to really, do something powerful today. So I apologize. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for those comments, Charles. And I think because we at one time already issued a resolution, that we could mention in the letter that a resolution exists, and we, remind the city that we were supportive of this and it's really important to us. So that could probably be something that we include, if that sounds good. Yeah. Great idea though, Charles. Thank you. I know we've got some public attendees. I see Sally Johnston, you have your hand up. I'm excited to have you here. If you're able to unmute yourself and let me see. I just unmuted you, I think, maybe. Unclear, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now we can.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'll be very brief. I'm Sally Johnston. I'm Oliver's sister, one of his sisters. And we are just so happy to hear that there's interest in preserving his stone, or we call it Oliver's Rock. In addition to Gail, we've had family members over the years go by and brush off the leaves, and it's actually a much larger stone than it looks like here. It's buried deeply here, and it would just mean a lot to have some landscaping and some attention, because he lived at 17th and Irving, and he worked in his offices for US Design. We're in the building right there on Broadway. So he walked Union Square Park every day, and he lived it. And with all that he did for Silence Equals Death, I think his heart was really in what could be done to bring back Union Square Park. And I can send you some more pictures of a poster he made to go around all the fences when the renovation was being done. And just, I can tell you lots more story, and I would love to write to you. So thank you all. Thank you, Charles, for your touching comment a moment ago. You made me cry. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining, Sally, for everything that Oliver did. We also have another public member, Michael. Let me see. I just if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
You can. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. I represent the Friends of the Union Square Dog Run. And we see this Oliver Stone every single day, and it's great to understand what it actually represents. It would be wonderful if that story was put on a plaque someplace near it, which we would be very supportive of. But with respect to the suggestion of flowers and landscaping, we would support flowers and landscaping, but I would also recommend that a fence get put up, because unfortunately many dog owners let their dogs pee and poop right outside the dog run, right by Oliver Stone. And so whatever landscaping or anything that you would do around the stone would actually get destroyed quite quickly. We have put many shrubs in around that area, and all of them have died because of dogs peeing and pooping in that area. So unless there is a fence that protects the area, whatever work is done will unfortunately get destroyed. So our strong recommendation would be to put fencing up first to protect the Oliver Stone, and then by all means, we are very supportive of whatever kind of landscaping and commemoration that would be appropriate for recognizing what he has done.
Yeah, but super valid comments. Thank you for joining, Michael. And I think that we can include some language that when Union Square goes to kind of design and think about this, they can keep that in mind, as well as dogs that might get the munchies or want to snack on some plants have to be careful as well. Those are excellent points, and it sounds like a community that's really supportive of the legacy of Oliver and wanting to kind of uplift and remember that. So, okay, any other questions or thoughts before we move into business session, and then we can vote on the letter, but yeah.
So there's no actual, the vote is on whether or not we should submit a letter to Carlina Rivera?
Yes.
That's the resolution.
Yeah. So, want to bring it to the table?
Yeah, and then you're gonna write the letter, right, as the committee chairman?
We can write it together.
Yes, I'd like to make a
Oh, yeah.
resolution that we approve this resolution to preserve and the name of Oliver by way of this beautiful memorial.
Great. A second? Great. Thank you, BJ. Okay, so we'll take it to a vote.
Okay. Nye,
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'm a yes. Harris. Ellington.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Kavak.
Yes.
Southworth.
Yes.
Shapiro.
Yes.
Vikram.
Yes.
And Sung.
Great. Okay, letter of support forthcoming. Thank you for joining us, Gail. It was so lovely to get to meet you, and Sally. Excited to help keep your brother's memory preserved and alive. Gail will be in touch to maybe get some additional language that would be helpful to include in the letter. And Michael, thank you again for joining and voicing those concerns that we hadn't really thought about. So that was really helpful. Okay, so that is all that we have on the agenda, but we do have a new business section, and I know we do have a little bit of new business that we actually want to discuss. So I'll turn it over to Michael the other Michael Southworth.
I know we've been here a while already, so hopefully
Yeah.
I'll keep it, but and then we can have a little conversation about whether we want to suggest anything to either exec or the other committees. But basically, it's about the city of West Housing. And I was thinking about it in the land use housing zoning, so looked at it through the lens specifically of housing zoning and boundaries as they're supposed to. And I worry that we're glossing over the impacts to parks, spaces, things like that. I had a few concerns that I wanted to raise to you all. Simply, like, basically, there's a lot of sort of additional zoning rights being created.
Madam Chair, I can't hear.
What?
You can't quite hear. Do you want to come closer?
Yeah.
Working on that, just a sec.
So yeah, so there are basically like implications for increased density, like increased density impact, like, and one of the main things I think about is that I was on the board many years ago when we approved 157, and now, and like, we were sort of aware it might cast shadows over Central Park, but now there are super talls going up everywhere, and so there are shadows and things like that. And since we have Madison Square Park, Bryant Park, and Union Square, this is likely going to impact us because there are a lot of sort of like air rights transfers, bonuses you can get. They're going to remove the like bar restriction. So I wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to bring up the changes they're making in terms of community oversight, that they're sort of removing the city council from the land use, from the ULURP process. And so while we would still have an advisory role, our role would be to advise the City Planning Commission and the CDC, and DCP itself, rather than the city council. And I do have some worries about not having the city council involved. And then with last Friday, the Supreme Court repealed this thing, Chevron deference, which sort of basically massively changes the way federal and ultimately it'll trickle down to city and state regulatory agencies and impose their expert opinions on the interpretations of laws. And so this could end up having a lot of knock-on effects to the way developers treat zoning. So, and the way that DCP can actually apply the new zoning text that they're trying to get passed. And so if you combine that with the lack of oversight from the city council, it could be very hard for the city to actually accomplish the goals of City of Yes housing opportunity. And they might just end up being run over in litigation by developers. So this is something that's come up since Friday. In essence, I had sort of like a few recommendations of the type of language that we might want to share. And I'll just read like a few of them, but it's like environmental and community protections, establish specific safeguards to protect parks and public spaces from the adverse impacts of increased density, ensuring maintenance, light access, air quality, and visual integrity of historic sites. Strengthen community input, ensure modifications to the ULURP process and environmental review processes, preserve extended public review periods, maintain significant advisory roles for community boards, and continue city council oversight on major land use changes. Another was clear legal definitions, define the roles and powers of the Department of City Planning and City Planning Commission clearly to manage and enforce zoning regulations effectively. And that's specifically with the Chevron deference issue. And then mandatory green space impact assessments require all significant new developments to conduct detailed assessment of the impacts to green spaces with results made publicly available. And that's something that just didn't seem to really be a big issue addressed by DCP last week in their presentations and in the conversations at land use. And then there's also a specific thing, which is infill development, or a specific issue with infill development, where like you take a area that has a large amount of like privately owned public space, and that because of current and existing zoning regulations, couldn't put buildings in certain areas, even though there's buildable square footage. And so, I mean, I'm thinking about the development on sort of like 29th and 7th Avenue. I think they showed pictures of being able to mass new buildings in areas that are currently wide open spaces and parks. And I think that is something that we want to make sure is really heavily thought about, or that, so in essence, like strong regulations protect existing open spaces, require compensatory public spaces for large infill projects, and enhance legal protections for privately owned public spaces. Similarly, to make sure that developers can't infill land that they've already designated for as a public space.
Right.
And then the last is sort of just a general climate resilience, public health type of concern, that like integrating climate resilience measures in all new developments and redesign for public spaces, prioritize green infrastructure, flood mitigation, urban heat reduction, ensure public spaces, promote physical equity and accessibility. That one's sort of like, it's just out there, but it's something that falls within our remit as parks and public spaces. And then some nod to the cultural heritage and local economy to just make sure that they're thinking all about this, because really what came across most clearly from DCP is that they're open to listen, they're open to take input, and that, but what they're trying to really accomplish are citywide massive zoning changes, because there are some legacy laws that just need to be repealed.
Yeah.
So I think that covers the gist of what.
Yeah. And I
I
guess.
don't know what anyone else has to say. I've spoken too much.
No, that was so helpful. And thank you for putting those thoughts together. And I guess just for context, we're in the process as CB5 and crafting a response to the City of Yes proposal. And I think Julie is writing it. Is that accurate?
Yes. I think that was my understanding from the land use meeting.
Right.
Murnau was there.
And so it's being.
Yeah, you're on the committee.
Okay. It's being reviewed on Monday at a special executive committee meeting, which is open to all members to attend, of course. And so the idea here is that we can discuss this, come to consensus, and suggest it as a friendly amendment during that meeting. So.
Oh, and I guess the one other thing I should, well,
or we can try to get to Julie in advance.
The one other thing I should say is that I am also a little concerned about like the other committees it wasn't brought before, like and things like that. So another of my concerns sort of suggesting that the city extend the comment period, because the reason we would have to say something now is because they're closing comments first week of September.
Yeah.
And we won't meet again until then. So that was my concern with that, and then also the land use is going forward with the position of approve with concerns, and I would have phrased it differently as sort of expresses that we express concerns unless these things are thought about, and that's a more like political, tactical way of describing our position.
I can talk to that since I was at that meeting.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely right. In fact, we did not want to write a deny unless letter. The consensus, and well, not the consensus, but the majority of the committee felt that it would be seen as optically anti-housing to write a deny unless letter. Even though some of the members felt that that was the more forceful way of
making sure.
You listen to.
Of getting attention. I do remember that Michael had suggested language that we included in the letter as a whereas clause. So what you're suggesting now is that
these are additional and specific thinking about parks and public spaces viewpoint, because in essence, like, I understood most of what was being said in that meeting, and it makes sense, but it's just coming from the viewpoint of that committee's remit, whereas parks and public spaces has a different opinion, or like cares about
Purview.
different
We
things.
have
Different remit, different purview.
scope.
Yeah, so it just, because of the sweeping nature of the change, it's sort of like, it's something like I thought we might think about through a different lens. And that, I don't know, even like, I'm not on Bex, but I don't know if they talk about this tomorrow, but they might think about it as well. Or T&E would think about things differently.
So what you're suggesting right now is
just more
like
language,
City Council always
more
saying it's not
language to
specific
send.
to parks.
Yeah, exactly.
to like send to Julie to include
To
in the,
include or, and sort of between her and exec, figure out how to, like,
Think about these implications.
think
you
about
mentioned.
and say like, just add things that come from parks and public spaces.
Should we go over each of the things?
yeah, I mean, I think that from a timeline perspective, I think that there's just for visibility, there's a letter that's open that we may sign off on at exec. It's from CB4 actually, about extending the timeline because the July 10th.
So that's already been brought up.
Well, it's not determined yet, but it is being raised collectively because most boards haven't had a chance to vote formally yet. So the city hearing is on the 10th, and I think it's being asked.
They want us to sign by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Got it.
So if we have any objections, we're supposed to object before then, but that the feedback will be accepted through September, so there's no change to that schedule, but we're hoping that the hearing process may be longer.
Guys, can I say something? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'd like to add my voice to Michael's, and many of the issues that he just mentioned, particularly with regard to light and the light impacting on the parks and our public spaces as the buildings get too large, and the proper use of our public spaces, which will be impacted if there are even modest increases in the building of new housing, right, are in our jurisdiction as parks and public spaces. And going back several years, our committee really put a lot of weight and effort, along with land use at various times, in calling attention to those issues. And, you know, I also attended the land use meeting, and I think it's really important that we add our voice to the kind of issues that are parks and public spaces purview to what comes out of that committee. So it's important, I think, that as many of us as possible, or at least some heavy hitters on our committee, attend the executive committee meeting and add our voice and add additional comments. Now, one of the issues about this, Libby is exactly right. There was a letter that came across to our offices today saying that many of the community boards want more time. It's 1,000. The city of Yes is incredibly complex. And insofar as our own decision-making process is going to be drawn into this, if it seems incongruous to me that something that's this important is going to be decided only by the executive committee. If there's any possibility at all, I understand that we don't want to be left out of the ability to comment. But as I understand it, it's possible that our right to comment, or to comment through September even, is there. And I would prefer, you know, with all of these different issues, even as to the issue of, you know, the deny unless versus the approve. Now, I must say that traditionally, and this did come up at the meeting, right? Traditionally, the deny unless, by our experience, focuses attention on what we think are the changes that have to be made. It's not necessarily a rejection. And we know that there are political actors that really want to get this settled or make a, relatively speaking, a quicker decision to focus or guide the decision-making process in their favor. Now, that may be what they think is right, but we are an independent branch of government. We shouldn't feel compelled to make a decision, if at all possible, that's early or being done so quickly that we don't give all 50 of our members a chance to weigh in on this. And if there's a difference of opinion between what we have to say, for example, about issues of light and the treatment of public spaces, and what comes out of the Land Use and Housing Committee, the only place, it's true that the executive committee could make a decision in extremis or on short notice, but that's not the desired answer. And if there's any possibility at all to hold this over till September and give everybody, all 50 of us, a chance to comment, right? Even if it's a majority and minority decision, we should advocate for that. And that's what I'm going to advocate for. And I'm interested to hear, what my fellow committee members say, because this is really a big issue. And the other thing I would point out, which I don't think was given enough play or discussion at the Land Use and Housing meeting, is that the end result of this, of the city of Yes, is it's dramatically limiting and setting a precedent for the right of review for community boards overall across the city. And it's true that, right now, the shortage of housing is a big issue. But is that something that we want to make a hasty decision on? It's something that we should take as much time as we can to make sure we consider it in depth, and that everybody, all 50 of our members, can weigh in on this.
And I will point out that this did come up from a parks perspective. I know Julie did raise that. It wasn't our committee, but it was at the land use committee. That is open for everyone. And many members who are not on the land use committee did in fact attend and did have the opportunity to speak. But I think that, we can certainly weigh in. I don't know if it's better to have whatever we discussed tonight, get to Julie ahead of that resolution. I think that might make more sense than coming separately from our,
but yeah. Okay. Charles, I see your hand up, sorry.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say, I didn't quite hear what Michael Southworth said, and I hope that he can reach out to me. But I just want to say that, I do feel that the needs of people, and I just want to say quickly, I don't have any invested interest. I'm someone who is on welfare, Medicaid, and SSI. I don't have any other interests or goals or anything, or any affiliations or anything like that. And I just want to say I'm very concerned with this housing of Yes, that people in support of housing, their needs are not being met. And I do really feel concerned about people like me who are low income, on welfare, that they're being ignored. And we live in a district full of a lot of homeless people, a lot of people with mental health issues. And I think that this housing of Yes is ignoring that. And I do hope that, there's an opportunity to, address this issue. Thank you very much.
Great comments, Charles. Thank you for raising that.
John, what are you thinking? You look like you're thinking something.
Well,
Not to put you on the spot, but
well, I just don't. I'm not sure what action you have to take tonight, but I don't feel. First of all, I like to see things in writing.
Yeah.
I like to have opportunity to deliberate a little bit.
And I can
I like
email
to have a
out
sense of
Yeah.
what other, I like to look at the videos of what Dan, as you mentioned, other committees, what their views are. I just don't think I have enough information to make a, if we're being asked to make a decision on the spot right now. I don't feel
it's really sort of like a tight turnaround time. So I think
It's really what?
it's a tight turnaround time for us, especially on a holiday week, to be able to have kind of an
Yeah.
extensive conversation.
I think what we could do though is say we have general consensus that there should be parks issues included. And then we could maybe flesh out a couple things in the coming days, and then we could take that, and anyone that's able to attend exec on Monday, the special meeting,
We can take that on Monday.
Yeah, and if anyone has like strong feelings one way or another, or
Yeah.
we can also maybe ask for, this would have been, I think, probably a question for George James, like during that Q&A session.
Yeah.
About like what the specifics would be, because I think that the UAP piece of this, that's the 20% bonus, and Vernal can correct me if I'm wrong here. That's currently legal. As long as it's like for senior housing, though now it's affordable, it might be more desirable than a senior housing. And then I know it's the landmarks transfer piece of it that's like your concern, but I'm wondering if there's a way to assuage some of like the super tall questions for you, if like maybe that could be addressed more specifically. I don't know if there's like a follow-up Q&A period with George James, he might be willing to answer a different question, or like follow-ups, but that, and then I think Julie's already including the language, because they got rid of the residential pops. My understanding from that meeting was they got rid of the residential pops because the residential, they weren't
claiming
they weren't actually using, yeah, which I think is an issue for Bax, which I would love to raise as my own personal issue of pops enforcement and making sure that there isn't hostile architecture and that they're available. But I also understand the reason for a text amendment, but I think Julie's definitely taking up that piece of what you ran through. I mean, I think looking through, if we all had this in front of us, it'd be a little easier too. I don't know.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, no, we totally
Thank you
understand.
for doing that. Sorry for.
Clarification on the timeline. That's all. So it's going to exec because it has to be sent before the full board meeting.
Because we want to vote on it.
Hearing, so we want to,
Zoning's already voted.
so the hearing, they've already voted. They voted 8-4 in favor of yes with some concerns.
Where will that?
So that's we have to have a special exec meeting about it on Monday, because the city's hearing about it all, like if we want to have a public comment, is July 10th. So that's a week from this Wednesday. And our board meeting isn't until the 11th. So we don't actually, there isn't, so that's why the letter tomorrow to be like, can you move the 10th, the hearing on the 10th might negate this entire question, because it might actually to be able to be discussed at full board. If they move it like by a week, which many boards are asking for.
What I do want to bring up is one of my concerns that literally only came up Friday is this whole thing with the way like regulatory agencies are going to be able to enforce their positions in the future without Chevron deference, because it's like literally it's sort of like gutting the EPA's ability to act as a intelligent and like knowledgeable advisor. But it will end up.
You think
through to New York
it'll
State
mean
and
that
all
they
of
can't talk about like the sewers are gonna overflow, we'll have CSOs, or?
I think they'll end up basically looking at DPs, like they'll look at Department of City Planning the same way.
It's not a federal.
But it's not a federal issue.
I get it, but it's supremacy.
I mean, sure, you could have similar precedents in New York State, but the New York State.
It's gonna end up being a supremacy.
Federal issue, they won't
Right.
have a say over.
Can I add something here? The limiting of or the elimination of the Chevron deference is at the end of the day, it's going to make the need for public comment and the drafting organs, the city council or the state government or whomever, they have to draft their rules and regulations in such a way that it's explicit, right? Because the deference given to the agencies is going to sink to nothing. So what we as a community board have to do, we have to understand that going forward, our role is even more important than ever, because we know that the city council and the state government, they're often, they sometimes don't take the time, or they take the easy way out, or they try to leave things vague in the nature of compromise. We have to make sure that whatever comes out of our offices and our community boards, so that they get it right, so that they put it in explicit.
Excellent comment, Todd. Yeah, for
That's
sure. I do know, I think Shayna, actually, did you have a question? I think,
just wanted to add that's, allowed.
sure.
So
Yeah,
I'm
from
not
public
as
member.
informed on this issue, but I know that with a lot of housing proposals, they try to do it and then every single person, every single angle has some sort of objection. And then it just doesn't get done and we're left with no housing. So I think that doing, sort of like deny unless could be dangerous, just because we do need more housing and some compromises need to be made. Like, it's very important to have, like, all the things you were saying about parks and availability and stuff, but it's also really important that we have housing and bring down the price of affordable housing. So
Sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't hear what the community board member said. I'm so sorry. Could you please repeat?
It's actually a member of the public. It's Shayna Peters. She came to speak on the photograph issue earlier. And she is saying that frequently during land use and zoning review processes, many people come and have complaints with it, but that the housing crisis is such that though we should have language to be parks need to be available, that the level of crisis that we're in that would make doing a deny unless dangerous, because it would be more likely that increasing housing would be very difficult in that circumstance. That we can, yeah.
That's what you were saying earlier as well, right? Was the
That's
general-
what
I
you made
feel,
opinion.
I feel the same way personally. I think that I love parks. I want more of them. I'm definitely in favor of including something. Maybe they should consider adding sort of like vaguely like a vibe of like, if there's a certain project of a certain size, like include more public spaces, include more bathrooms, more plants, like lots of that stuff. But as far as the actual like housing piece of it, I'm definitely, I think that keeping it as yes and is really, really important.
Yeah, great.
I
Thank you
believe
for
at the
summarizing.
meeting, the term that was used was getting perfect. Getting perfect getting the way.
Be the enemy of the good. Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
and I
know
guess my,
Michael has-
oh, sorry.
Yeah, Michael, and then I know Catherine has her hand up too, but do you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Michael.
just let me throw something into the mix that not the big picture of building new buildings and all of that stuff. It's about existing buildings. Okay, now, you know, I do a tour of the garment district that encompasses millions and millions of square feet of real estate, a lot of which, a big percentage of which is empty. So I called up a friend of mine. I have several people that I know who own buildings. And I said to them, forget about the new buildings that the rich people, those guys are building, you know, the Ross and the Bernados. What about your building? You own 6 buildings with a 2.5 million square feet. And what do you think of the city of Yes, with all your empty spaces? Wouldn't it make sense for you to take some of that commercial, get it rezoned, if it could be, and then be able to occupy, get rent-filling people in a percentage who would pay market rate and maybe 25% affordable housing and throw it into your into the mix. So he said to me, and this, if I can't make it on Monday, which I would like to get there and say this, maybe somebody else, we got millions of square empty feet that's available now, not 25 years when all of this stuff is going up. Now it's available and it's
also
empty.
that's included in City of Yes.
Yeah, so
that's all part of it.
So it's
that's also part of it.
So I said to him,
What do they call it? Penn South?
Midtown, the Midtown South
I said,
rezoning.
"What
This
is
is also
your
in City of
feeling
Yes too.
about this?" He says, it's all about money. He says, I own buildings, and he named 3 other guys who I know who own multiple buildings with millions of square footage of empty and full in the building. He said, if the city is willing to make it worth our while, it's all about money, then we're for it. But if they're gonna say just throw in and make 25% and 75%, and it doesn't figure on the spreadsheet that we're gonna make money on it, they're not giving us enough tax breaks or whatever the city can offer, I'm not interested. So, you know, we're just thinking about, Michael, the new buildings. That's 25 years. I'm talking about tomorrow. And these buildings exist already today, so.
And they are, yeah. part of
Just
the-
to add again, like you were saying, the City of DS proposal is not just about the UAP component of it, which is that additional 20% again. Not an architect, don't know very much about it, but it does include proposals for conversion of commercial buildings, shared housing, which allows you to convert some of these commercial buildings today. And you know,
But it's easy for us to say, when you talk to these guys, the guys who collect the rents, the guys who own the buildings, all about money.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at
Okay.
is not generally an objection to all of City of Yes, it's that it seems like it's sort of cover for a very fundamental regulatory shift in the way that community boards, the city council interact with DCP and the Central City Planning Commission, and how development works in that fashion. And I don't really think there's a reason to do two at the same time, and that it's very easy to just do one and not do this other thing. And I'm thinking about it like even things with like Grand Central Station, like there are all sorts of issues with like light corridor into with One Vanderbilt, and like are we still going to have like that type of view? And so what I'm thinking about is sort of our ability to comment on this down the road, and it's sort of doing more than we need to get what we actually need done.
Okay. Over to Catherine. Do you still, I'm sorry, you took your hand down, but.
No, because you acknowledged, yes, I still have comments. So my comment is about one, our understanding is that DCP is going to continue to accept all comments and submissions, whatever that means, through the end of July, and that we should see our opportunity to comment as an opportunity, but as Michael Kabak was saying, it's up to us to kind of reach out to the people that we know to weigh in, whether or not they agree or whether or not they're saying there isn't enough money on the table, whatever they're saying, it needs to be said, and that there is a window here for us to do our work, but for us to also engage the rest of the district, so that we don't get a shift from what we do in a regulatory sense, that this is still a window of opportunity for comment. We're seeing deadlines and we're seeing timelines, but that my point is that what we should be doing is opening the conversation in as many places and ways as we can. And I appreciate what we've done even here tonight.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm getting, it seems like we generally agree that we want to comment and include something that acknowledges, parks and public spaces in this. I think that we could take it to email in terms of like the language that you've already crafted, and thank you for doing that, Michael, by the way. And we could circulate that amongst members, and then Libby and I can present it on Monday. I don't want to rush and have something tonight for.
I wasn't even expecting.
Yeah,
anything
no, and I
binding. It's
appreciate
just like
that.
From like a public discussion and notice perspective, I thought it was a conversation.
And maybe we'll have more time too, is the hope, right?
Right.
I do think we should also include the fact that, it was such a tight window.
Yeah.
That doesn't really let us do the due diligence that we would have normally liked to do.
Oh, I'm
So
sure
going
Julie.
forward.
Yeah, that we weren't fully, able to comment as like a parks committee. I do think that some of your language, which I really appreciate that you've written, I do think some of it's outside of the remit of parks specifically, like some of the more like legally type stuff with like.
But would be good
Chevron,
comments to bring.
yeah, I think that
Monday,
like if you can
regardless.
come to exec and say that, that would be
Okay.
great. But
Right.
I'm thinking that from like the parks remit specifically. But I definitely would, I'm in favor of a more like general language of like, hi, DCP, please consider parks. Can you add some
Right,
incentive
right.
to create more public space?
And I
Right, like a
think we need
specific
something
request.
Very specific.
Yeah, but I think like creating a request to create more public space or to,
Right.
I think that especially because we have like the least tree cover, like, can you
Right.
ask for street trees if
Right.
there's gonna be any
Yeah,
development?
yeah.
Like that
Like
kind
in
of
an
thing.
ideal world, if we had more time, it would be like, we could talk about the specific language to even like, with these, with these
Right.
programs, like, well, residential POPs is gone, but what type of POPs changes or improvements
Right.
would we specifically ask for in an ideal world, and be like, can you change this line on
Everywhere,
page
all
600 to this, like something like
Yeah.
that, but like.
The dream,
just
the
don't
dream.
have
I think it
that.
goes through, I think POPs actually goes through DOB and enforcement is through DOB. It's not through DCP. So it actually wouldn't make sense to add, it wouldn't, that's why it's a Bex thing. It wouldn't make sense. And that's like an elected thing that I would love to push for.
Right.
And maybe work with Renee and Julie on that. But that's like a different department. This is like purely text amendment.
Right.
Right.
So I think like making sure that we can ask them like, please consider parks when you're doing stuff.
Right.
But I think that making sure that at least from our committee, that it stays pretty specific, I think
Yeah.
is better. But like I definitely encourage you
Right,
to come
well,
and bring-
Right, that's what.
raise
that's
it out
why I'm-
exact.
Right, that's why I'm saying that like, we wouldn't do something like that now.
Right.
That would take more time, so, but like.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, let's take, Charles has his hand raised and then the pulse in here, I know BJ, you haven't, are you generally,
Yeah, how are you feeling?
how are you feeling about, like, generally in
Getting a yes.
agreement or?
It's my first meeting, so I'm just absorbing and listening.
Appreciate you, thank
And then
you.
I think- I was just thinking, we need to stay in our lane, right? We're park stuff, so stay in
Yeah.
our lane, comment to that, and then, just looking at kind of.
Yeah, no, I know, I wanna wrap up, so,
Usually this long?
No.
or-
No.
Okay. And then we do have an owl that I guess wasn't working.
yeah, it's not the owl, unfortunately, they had to
We're
use
not
the
normally in this room.
cameras.
Oh.
We're normally
Yeah.
at the office.
Yes, we usually meet at CB5 offices. Okay, over to Charles and then we're gonna wrap this up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very quick. I just want to say that when we think about public spaces, I hope that we can put some sort of language about accessibility, because sometimes these public spaces, as well intentioned as they are, can be deserts to people with mobility issues. And I really hope that in the future we can try to make sure they're fully accessible to everyone, no matter what their type of disability they have. So I'm just wondering if we can try to think of that in the future. Thank you very much.
Charles, I'll forward you the draft text that I had shared, and one of the things that is not related to broader legal issues, but specifically related to parks, does mention accessibility, so.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. I know this was a beast of a meeting, but the movie's probably just kicking off, so we can go partake. Thanks, everyone. See you soon, Todd, Catherine, Charles.
Don't
thanks for
forget
joining.
the transcript.
Yes.
Yes, have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.